For this video, we'll be looking at number 2, number 6, and number 7 for how to make ionic bonds. First one we're going to look at is sodium and potassium. And we'll need to determine first whether or not this can create an ionic compound or a salt. Remember that a salt is the combination of a metal ion and a non-metal ion. The easiest way to determine this is by looking at our periodic table. And if we look at sodium, Na, and potassium, we'll notice two things. Firstly, both of these are metals, as they lie on the left side of the periodic table, and both of these, in their ionic form, are positively charged. As we can see up here, these elements can exist as a 0 or a +1. In their ion form, they will have a +1 charge, and therefore both of these will have a +1 charge. And in a salt, ionic bonding requires a negative and a positive charge. And so for this, we'll have sodium, which has in its ion form a plus charge, and our potassium, which also has a plus charge. Both of these are positive and both of them are metals, so this will not form a salt. No salt formed. For number 6, we're looking at sodium and bromine. So again, we'll consult our periodic table. First, we have sodium, which we know can have a 0 or a +1 charge. And in its ionic form, as an ion, sodium is going to have a +1 charge. So we'll write that down in our bubble form. And then let's take a look at bromine. Bromine is on the right side of the periodic table with the non-metals, and it is over here. And bromine can have a 0 or a -1 charge. And in its ion form, it's going to have a -1 charge. So we'll have bromine in its bubble form. So right away we have a metal and a non-metal. That's good. And we have a positive and a negative charge, and that is good. The last thing you need to do is make sure that the overall charge of our compound is 0. And you can accomplish that by adding up our charges that exist. So sodium has a +1 charge, bromine has a -1 charge, so these charges are satisfying the neutral necessity. So this compound is complete, and its formula then is NaBr, since we have one sodium and one bromine. And if we name it, we always name the metal first, so sodium. And then we name the non-metal, and we change it, the ending, to "ide", so bromide. For number 7, we're looking at barium and nitrogen. So again, first thing to do, look and see on our periodic table if we have a metal and a non-metal. So the first one is barium, which is down here. And because it's on the left side of our periodic table, we understand that it is a metal with a 0 or +2 charge. And in its ion form, it's going to have a +2 charge. And we find nitrogen, which is on the non-metal side of the periodic table. And it has a 0 or a -3 charge. So we can say that barium and nitrogen will form an ionic compound. So we'll write out a barium. I'll just write it out here. And our nitrogen. Which has a 3- charge. So these can form an ionic compound. However, in order to make a proper ionic compound here, we know that the overall charge of the compound must be 0. In its current state, 2 plus -3 gets us a -1 charge overall. So right now this has a -1 charge. So it's not exactly satisfying our need for a 0 charge. And in order to satisfy this -1 charge, we'll need to add another positive barium ion to the other side of nitrogen. it's important to recognize here that we cannot break up the charge of the ions. One barium ion will always have a 2+ charge, and you can't split it up or move it around so it only has a +1 charge to satisfy this here. So if we do the math, 2 plus -3 plus 2 gets us a +1 charge. So we're still not at 0 here. So the next thing we need to do is add another nitrogen in. So add that on the other side because the positives are attracted to the negatives. So now we have 2 nitrogens and 2 bariums. So if we add these together, we get -3 plus 2 plus -3 plus 2. That gets us an overall -2 charge. So still not at 0. And so we need to add in one more barium. And that will get us an overall charge of 0, meaning our compound is complete. And so if we write the formula, we count up how many bariums we have. 1, 2, 3. Ba3 as a subscript. And nitrogen, we have 2. And if we write it out, we have our metal first, barium. And then we have nitrogen, but we change the ending to "-ide". So we have barium nitride.